Oh man, that was so much fun to see the Rams come in on Sunday Night Football, represent Aaron Donald well. Of course, it was the Aaron Donald game, and the defensive line rewarded him for it. The whole team rewarded him for it. And if you guys don't know, with the Eagles losing to the Cowboys today, the Rams hold the number one seed for the first time all season. Obviously, you got to continue to fight for that and still hold them off for the rest of the year. But to be the number one seed at this point, to have the best record in the NFC, no complaints. What a game. 34-10 win over the Buccaneers. Fun fact, the Rams have not won a primetime game on Sunday Night Football since Stafford's first game as a Ram. So to come out and make a statement like the Rams did tonight, all three phases representing Aaron Donald well, I could not be more proud of this team. And I'm sure Aaron Donald was proud watching in the audience there, and to be able to be honored in this way, so special for him. And speaking of special, Matthew Stafford, his MVP tour continues here for the Los Angeles Rams. For the people that have been in disbelief all season, I'm so glad that they got to see Matthew Stafford performing the way we've all seen him playing this entire season under the primetime lights, making all different kinds of throws, whether it's sidearms, whether it's a streak down the field, whether it's a dig route, whether it's a no look, the stuff we know he can do and that he's been doing all year, the national audience was able to see. And Stafford is up to 30 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Still, the last interception he threw was all the way back in week 3 against the Philadelphia Eagles on the very first drive of the game. And since then, he's gotten up to 30 touchdowns. He's been on an absolute heater. And part of the reason is because of Devontae Adams. The Stafford and Adams chemistry is finally clicking in place there. And it's just so fun to see all these pieces moving in synchronicity. And it's just such a fun time to be able to watch the Los Angeles Rams team. And they would not be here without Matthew Stafford playing like an MVP. He should be the MVP by the end of the year. And it's a large reason why the Rams have 9 wins to 2 losses on the year. I'm just glad that we get to go out and watch Matthew Stafford doing what he's doing. I just feel so blessed to be a fan of a team that has a great coach, an elite quarterback, an amazing defense. Like, we really have very little things to complain about. Even our kicking game seems to be fixed with Harrison Mevis making a 50-plus yard field goal there too. Again, I don't know how you can say that this is not the best team in the NFL right now. And I understand. I'm a Rams fan. I have Rams stuff all around me. I'm wearing a Rams jersey. So that could sound like I'm being a homer, but I really don't know how you can argue. Really, since coming off the bye, the Rams have been absolutely destroying teams, and they've been playing such good football. The Rams obviously won against the Ravens 17-3 all those weeks ago. That was after the 49ers lost in week 5. After that, they won again 35-7 against the Jaguars, and then 34-10 against the Saints, 42-26 against the 49ers. Obviously had a close one against the Seahawks, 21-19, but they came out with a win against one of the better teams in football. And then they just beat the Bucks 34-10. And it's the way that the Rams are winning these games that makes me think that at least right now, this is the best team in the NFC, in the NFL. And their coaching staff can back that up. The players can back that up. The experience that they're gathering here. And this team is getting hot at the right time. You don't want to get hot early on in the year, in the first weeks of the season. I know as much as we would want that to happen, you can't get hot at that time and cool off. That's kind of what we saw the Packers do. The Rams have been building. They had a lot of their mistakes earlier on in the year. They were able to escape with a lot of wins still earlier on in the year. But now things are beginning to click. They're starting to be able to be set in place to where the Rams are catching fire at the right time. It's when you get around Thanksgiving when you get to see who the true contenders are and who the pretenders are. And the Rams are certainly a contender. Really, in this game with the offense, we'll just start there. I was just so impressed with this offense, and they're continuing to do what we know that they can do. And really, the Rams did not run the football a lot in this game. I think it was in the third or fourth quarter. The Rams had 34 passes to 10 runs. Like, they really weren't trying to get the run established, and the Bucks have a good run defense. But it didn't matter because we were able to throw it all around the field. And the cool thing about it was it wasn't just going to Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. It was going to guys like Colby Parkinson stepping up for Tyler Higbee. It was going to guys like Jordan Whittington, Konate Mumfield, Davis Allen. And you continued to see the Rams be able to spread the ball around at such a high level, which is what a lot of fans were complaining about earlier on in the year. I'm talking like first 5 weeks of the season. They're always talking about Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua were the only options that were out there that Stafford was targeting. Stafford's throwing around to everybody, and it's even harder to defend. You sprinkle in your stars like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, and they make their big plays. Obviously, Devontae had the 2 touchdowns. He's basically unguardable in the red zone. He's got 12 touchdowns on the year, and a large majority of those have come in the red zone. But you saw that explosive play over the top on the streak route, about 24 yards out, a beautiful throw from Stafford. It's just so cool to see these two guys on the same page again, because at the start of the year, they really weren't clicking like that. But now you can tell that things, the chemistry and everything is just kind of unlocked for this duo. But even so, again, the Rams are not relying on Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua like they were earlier on in the year. And while that works, you don't want to overuse those options, and you become harder to defend when you have all the eligibles out there. So just love to see the way the Rams were able to move the ball up and down the field, multiple different kinds of plays, whether it's screens, whether it's shot plays, play action, bootlegs. They were able to really unload the full pack of plays that they could do here. And again, they didn't really have to run the ball because they were moving the ball through the air so effectively with so many different options. And it was just really cool to see them working again to the potential that we know that they can have and be able to put up. It's just really cool to see all the different weapons involved against Stafford. Another game without an interception. Hasn't been since week 3 since we've seen an interception. And it just feels, again, like things are clicking in the right place at the right time at this point in the season. I was a little nervous when we were in the last 8 minutes of the game and we saw all our starters out there on the offensive side of the ball, because you want to keep this group intact. You don't want any more injuries to come to them. They're playing so well. Even the offensive line, how many of you guys forgot that Warren McClendon Jr. was in the game at right tackle for Rob Havenstein? This is what I'm talking about. People are always kind of erring on the side of Havenstein being better, and I love Havenstein and everything he's done for the Rams. But I have to admit, when he comes in the game for Havenstein, and he's had to come in the game a couple times, actually, obviously he started this game, he's just looked really good, and you forget that he's out there, which is what you want for an offensive lineman. So really cool to see McClendon holding it down there. Again, it wasn't until they highlighted him on the Sunday Night Football broadcast in the third or fourth quarter that I was like, oh yeah, McClendon's out there at tackle, because he was just holding it down so well. So really cool to see that. Before we transition over to the defense, I want to say hello to some of you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for coming into the chat. I really appreciate you guys. We got Striker's Corner saying Rams hold the number 1 seed right now. That's right. I am just so happy if the Rams can hold on to this number 1 seed. So it's obviously not the end-all be-all, but it helps you out a ton. You don't have to travel. You get to have your stadium be the host of playoff games until the Super Bowl. And the Rams in the Sean McVay era, as much as they've accomplished, they've never had the number 1 seed. So that would be awesome if they could hold on to it. And yeah, one's in the chats. Thank you so much again, everybody in here. We got Looter Chris, a classic. Says, let's go Rams, number 1 once again. Love to see it. Love to see it. Striker's Corner, Rams for life. JJ Fording, Poor Soul Studio says, what a whooping. Rams left a gash on those. Yeah, I've just, again, can't complain. What a performance it was. We got Muad'Dib in here. He says number 1 seed. Thanks, Muad'Dib, for coming in here. We got David. That's actually my name, too. So we're twinning here a little bit. He says, whose house? Rams' house. Rams will win this year's Super Bowl champion. Couldn't agree more. With the way that they're playing right now, as long as they stay healthy, I don't know how you can't even say that that's an over Rams action, for those of you who know what we're doing there, to say that the Rams would win the Super Bowl. They're just playing so well. My Rams will win next week in North Carolina against the Panthers. Yeah, I hope so, man. I mean, that's a sneaky team. They'll play the 49ers tomorrow. Hopefully we can have them beat the 49ers there. But yeah, I feel pretty confident about that one. And Payo Time in here. Make sure you guys subscribe to Payo Time if you guys have not watched him before. Excellent YouTuber. He obviously does First Down Rams with me. And just an even better quality guy. So thank you for coming in here. He says, some say the number 1 seed is the sunflower seed. I say it's the Rams. Hey, I like what you did there, Payo. I like what you did there. Doesn't feel good for the Rams to have the number 1 seed right now. Obviously, this isn't the number 1 goal when you set up for a season, just to win the number 1 seed and be eliminated. But again, it's a big stepping stone. It helps you. And I think it's beginning to back up the way the Rams have been playing, the fact that they have the number 1 seed. So thank you, everybody who's in the chat right now. We are going to switch over to the defense, which everybody's going to look at the offense. Obviously, they put up 34 points. But the Rams defense, I mean, just an incredible game put up by these guys. Obviously, barely any points led up to the Buccaneers. I just felt like all the fundamental things that they were supposed to be doing, like a good defense would be doing, is what they were doing. They were being aggressive. They were being fast. They were tackling like crazy. And they had so many PBUs this game. just off of my own head count, the Rams had like 5 pass breakups, 4 of those to Emmanuel Forbes, who's just been absolutely blossoming as a star for the Rams cornerback room. And then you had another one in there by Kobe Durant, obviously earlier on in the game. And that was a big play by Kobe Durant on the first drive. Baker Mayfield took the shot to Emeka Egbuka, who's beaten teams over the top a lot on those post routes. And he beat the Rams over the top there, but Kobe Durant came up, made the huge pass breakup. I think that was a big momentum thing that's going to get lost. Obviously, Kobe Durant had that crazy, crazy pick six there on Cade Otton, where he just ripped the ball out of his hand. I still don't know how he did that. And he went back and scored it, which was crazy. And then you even saw Kobe Durant have another play where he slid underneath 2 blockers to make a tackle for a loss on a screen. Kobe Durant was everywhere, and so is this defense. And I think it all starts with the front 7. Obviously, for the Rams, is very good. They had a great game plan for this Buccaneers offense. I know a lot of people are going to say that Baker Mayfield was hurt in this game, and some people may even use that as an excuse for the Rams to be able to get this win. To me, I don't think you can say that because they were clearly dominating all the way up to halftime. It was like 28-7 or something like that. And that's when Baker went out, obviously hoping he has a speedy recovery. But I don't think you can use that against the Rams because they were handling him, Baker Mayfield, in that offense very well. And their defense was just playing lights out. I just felt, again, their tackling, their aggressiveness. And as the game went on and as the lead kept growing from the Rams offense putting up points, you felt the pass rush really come alive. And that's what was so fun about this game is they were just playing so complimentary. Even to the fact with the special teams on top of the defense playing well, you didn't only have the offense and defense playing well and the special teams kind of hanging around. You saw Harrison Mevis kick 2 actual field goals this game, made them both right down the middle, not even a question. One from 52 yards out. So congratulations to Mevis. And I think we all deserve this as Rams fans to see a kicker doing so well, being so consistent and a good operation where you don't have to have a heart attack before an extra point. So shout out to that. It just felt like they're all feeding off each other, every single unit. And I thought, again, from the defensive standpoint, the Bucks were actually running the ball pretty well compared to what some teams have done. But the Rams were kind of letting them do that because obviously you got out to a big lead. The Bucks weren't going to be able to run forever. They're going to have to pass the ball. And when they did, we got back there. So many different sacks, even sacks taken off of the board. Again, they did Aaron Donald proud. Jared Verse had 2 sacks in this game. One of them where he had a crazy bull rush against one of the best tackles in the league in Tristan Wirfs. And then you had Kobe Turner, the conductor, with 2 sacks, which, by the way, how cool is it that he had that piano rendition of Sunday Night Football, their theme song? Like, this defense was just playing so well. I feel like they're gelling really well to where it's not just the pass rush playing well. The pass rush is playing well, and the back defenders there in the secondary are feeding off of it. They're getting those pass breakups. As I mentioned, Emmanuel Forbes had 4 pass breakups. He had an interception. He's become even better as a tackler. And you obviously had out there Kobe Durant, who balled out with getting his pick 6. You saw, I just feel like the secondary is flying around, and they're playing complementary to the Rams pass rush. And that's what the best defenses do. And we're going to get Akella Witherspoon back here in a couple of weeks. And I can only imagine what this defense is going to look like when you got Emmanuel Forbes, Akella Witherspoon, Darius Williams, Kobe Durant kind of swapping spots there, and this pass rush coming alive the way that it is. I just feel like this was a total complete Rams win. And when I'm looking at my notes here, the Rams have had a blowout win since that week 5 49ers game. They've had a blowout win in 5 consecutive games. If you take out that Seahawks game, obviously 21-19, but 5 consecutive games, even including that Ravens game where the Rams won 17-3. And it just feels like they are really learning how to play this complete football. And I love it because earlier on in the year, you felt this team, at least I did, was shooting themselves in the foot so many times, whether it be dropped passes, whether it be fumbles, whether it be missed field goals, blocked field goals. You really could make an argument that the Rams could be 11-0 at this point. And it's cool to see the Rams be able to clean up these mistakes and start faster on offense, to see the chemistry with Devontae and Stafford paying off like we all thought that they would, and just to see everything working the way that we knew could have happened. But the reason the Rams started slow was because of self-inflicted wounds. And once they got out of their own way, you can really see the ceiling for what this team can do. So I just love to be able to see what we all suspected should be happening with this Rams team coming to fruition here. When it comes to some standout players here, I mean, you got so many to choose from. If I was to give a game ball to one or two people, because I know I have a lot of standout players every time I do this, I'd give it to Matthew Stafford. Obviously, you got great weapons, but you have to have a guy who's out there throwing no look passes, who's just throwing dots left and right, making the right decisions. So Matthew Stafford would get a game ball for me. Obviously, 30 touchdowns to 2 interceptions is just exceptional. And another game ball for me, I feel like I want to give it to the full defense because their pass rush was just doing good, but that's kind of a cheat answer. I want to shout out Emmanuel Forbes again. I know I've already talked about him, but 4 pass breakups. He's playing with confidence. This is his 3rd consecutive game with an interception. And I'm just loving watching the storyline of Emmanuel Forbes. So I'd give the 2 game balls to both of them. But as far as some standout players, obviously we got to talk about Devontae Adams. 2 touchdowns in this game. I think a lot of people, like casual fans, just look at the yards he's putting up and just says like, oh, like as a casual, I think Devontae Adams is washed. But he's got the most touchdowns in the league, 12 touchdowns, and he makes these big impact plays. And there's still like a couple throws here and there where you feel like Stafford and him will connect at even a higher rate as the season goes on. But their connection has gotten so much stronger. That streak route where he caught the touchdown, ran it into the tunnel, that was so much fun. Obviously, the red zone, he's just been an absolute problem. Teams know that the Rams are going to be passing the ball when they're 2 or 3 yards out from there, and they still can't stop Devontae Adams. Even on the outside with McCollum, he was playing outside leverage, and Devontae Adams was having to run like in an outside, like almost fade route there on the goal line. So going towards outside leverage as a receiver when that's where your route is not the best. And Adams still finds a way to win, and Stafford puts it where only he can get it. And Devontae Adams has just been so fun to have here with the Rams. And for me personally, it's been so cool to see him as a person really enjoying this situation. Obviously, with the Raiders and with the Jets, those were not great destinations for him to be. And he's talked about it before where it felt like there was like a black cloud around their organization. But the Rams, they just do this with so many different players who are disgruntled or maybe haven't been in the best situation, or they don't know what a winning organization looks like. Obviously, Devontae Adams knows what it looks like because he was on the Packers. But it's been quite a while since he's seen what it looks like to have a winning organization. He talks about how this is like a college atmosphere where everybody's there for each other. Everybody loves being with each other and hanging out. He even talked about recently on the Wits and Fit podcast, I think it was, he was just talking about the fact that people in this building don't want to leave. The practices will end, everything's done, and they want to hang around. And it's just so cool to be able to see that kind of thing for Devontae Adams. He even talks about how he loves the fact that when his opponent, or not his opponents, his teammates score touchdowns, he gets more excited for them than he does for himself. And so Devontae Adams, absolutely love the addition, and I love to see just the personal development and growth he's had there. And it just seems like he's loving LA, which who wouldn't at this point? Another standout player for me, Kobe Durant. He's just insane. Obviously started the game on a heater. I really do think that pass breakup on the deep ball there to Emeka Egbuka, first drive for the Bucks, was a huge momentum swing. That could have been a touchdown, 7-0. You never know what the game's going to be like from there. He makes the pass breakup. Again, he slides, makes that diving tackle for a loss on the screen. And then he gets the pick six, like the land shark. He's balling out here for the Rams in a contract year. Love to see that. Before I get to the rest of my standout players here, I just want to shout out Ducendo, which I believe is Deuce Falco. Dude, this is so generous. Thank you so much for the super chat. I never expect any of you guys to donate money to the channel. And when you guys do, like, it truly does warm my heart because I love talking about the Los Angeles Rams, and the fact that you guys want to come here, listen, and donate your own money. Like, seriously, I appreciate you so much. He says, huge Rams win. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for the donation, man. You're so kind. Getting back to it here, though, standout players. After Kobe Durant, we got another Kobe Turner, a 2-sack performance for the conductor. I was going to put him on here regardless because that Sunday Night Football piano performance that he had in there is just absolutely amazing. Quality player, quality human being, 2 sacks, and he does a lot of the dirty work for the Rams that doesn't get credit, even when, he goes on the stat sheet without any sacks in games. Like us Rams fans know the kind of impact he has and even the attention he can draw. But today it was so cool to see him cash in, get those 2 sacks for the Rams. And you can't dislike that celebration that he has, the conductor. So cool to be able to see that. Jared Verse, we got a lot of standout players. Obviously, by the way, this is a big win. So there's a lot of players that stood out to me. Jared Verse, 2 sacks. It was just so impressive to see against one of the best tackles in the league by far, in Tristan Wirfs. he just completely walked him into the backfield when Baker Mayfield was in the game, shed the block, made the sack. Later on the game against Teddy Bridgewater, the backup, obviously, I thought it was really cool in this sack because with Jared Verse in the past in this young defense, they did a bad job of containing on the edges and they would get over aggressive just trying to make a play. And Verse has talked about this before, and the QB would get out for a scramble. And it was really cool to be able to see on that sack on Bridgewater that it looked like Bridgewater had a lane to be able to get outside, and Verse was able to contain it, get the sack, get his second sack. I believe this is only his second sack performance, Jared Verse's, of his career. And the only one I can remember having 2 sacks was against the Eagles in the playoffs last year. So it was really cool to see that. A lot of people knock Jared Verse for the low sack numbers that he has, even going back to last year. But if you're a true fan of football and watch the games, watch every Rams game, you'll see Jared Verse impacts every single play. Whether he gets a sack or not, whether he gets a tackle or not, he's backing people up into the running back, into the quarterback, and he's disrupting things. He's forced a couple interceptions this year. So Jared Verse absolutely is going to go on here. I wonder if he had a little bit of nightmare kind of situation when he saw Aaron Donald in the building tonight, thinking back to that workout that they had. Warren McClendon here. This is my 7th standout player here. Again, we got a lot. I talked about it earlier. I don't know how many of you guys remember that Warren McClendon was in this game. The fact that he was in this game the entire time, and I forgot until the 3rd or 4th quarter, and I consider myself to be a pretty locked in, diehard kind of Rams fan where I would understand he's in the game, Rob Havenstein is out. But what I mean by me forgetting he was in the game is he was playing so well that it wasn't until they highlighted him in the 3rd or 4th quarter that I was like, oh yeah, Warren McClendon's out there. And he was doing so well. He was holding his own there. And I just love to see the way he's stepping in there. I'd be curious to know if you guys think he's going to keep the job the rest of the year. This was on my Over Rams Action Wednesday segment with Payo Time on First Down Rams. One of them that I had was Warren McClendon is not going to give his job up the rest of the year. And what I meant by that is obviously you got Rob Havenstein out for the next 4 games. Will Warren McClendon Jr. play well enough to where he just doesn't give the job back because he's playing so well? The Rams are a team of competition, and we've seen that. I can go down so many different examples, but one of the biggest ones that I can think of is, first off, A.J. Jackson, our current left tackle. He was undrafted out of, I think it was Iowa, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was undrafted. Joe Noteboom got paid to be the future left tackle after Andrew Whitworth left, and he got big money, and the Rams had been developing him behind the scenes. He played well in the times that he started, and he just did not play that well. He was a lot worse for whatever reason when he was declared the starter and got paid the contract. It just didn't work out. And a lot of other organizations, I can think of organizations like the Cowboys, would have kept Joe Noteboom at left tackle because of the contract. But the Rams are a team of competition. They put the best guys out there. That's why there are so many UDFAs and late round draft picks on the field, even over guys who are picked higher in the drafts or paid bigger contracts. And that's what I can see here with the case of Warren McClendon that could happen here, because A.J. Jackson never gave his spot back to Joe Noteboom. Noteboom gets cut, or he actually might have I think his contract just expired. But regardless, he never gave his job back. You see it with a guy like Cooper Kupp. There's a lot of loyalty to him. He's been in the organization for forever. He's created so many memories for the Rams, and obviously they're okay to let him go. He wanted to stay for cheaper, but the Rams were looking for bigger and better things. They saw a need that they had, and they separated the emotion from the business, which is hard to do, to be able to get better play. So I go on that crazy long rant just to say, don't be surprised if Warren McClendon doesn't give the job up for the rest of the year, as much as we love Havenstein. And he's obviously now one of 2 tenured St. Louis Rams, obviously the other being Jake McQuaid, the long snapper. We know what he's done for this team, and he's a captain, but I would not be surprised, given what we've seen in the past from the Rams, if McClendon just doesn't give his job back. And I'd be curious to see what you guys think about that. But shout out to him. He just had a crazy game today. And I forgot that he was in there until they highlighted him. And lastly, my standout player, Harrison Mevis. I'm kind of lost count at this point. He's got to be up to almost, 13, 14, 15 straight PATs made for the Rams. Since getting the job, he has not missed a field goal or an extra point, and he hasn't had a single one blocked. And today was the first day that he has attempted a field goal in the game that wasn't an extra point. He made his first one right down the middle, and his second one from 52 yards out, he made right down the middle as well. I think obviously in games like these, a guy like Harrison Mevis can be forgotten just because he's the kicker. He's not the big name like a Devontae Adams or a Matthew Stafford or Jared Verse. But I want to highlight him because the kicking game was causing us a lot of stress as Rams fans for especially that first part of the season. And it even cost us the game against Philadelphia, cost us the game against San Francisco because we had some points left on the board there. So I don't want to just brush past the fact that Harrison Mevis has just reduced a lot of stress for us as Rams fans, and he's adding points to the board that could be really important down the line. McVay talked about it ad nauseum that he wanted to fix the kicking game, and they're working at it. It took so many weeks. I didn't think Harrison Mevis would do this well, but I'm proud of him. I'm so happy for him. Again, he hasn't had a single missed kick here for the Rams, not a PAT, not a field goal. And I think that this is a guy that we're going to be even more thankful for as it comes down to closer games like we had against the Seahawks last week, but more importantly in the future. Because if the Rams didn't address this kicking issue, or if they kept it with whatever operation they had running out there that was causing problems with Josh Carty, Alex Ward, and all of that group there, I think that it could really cost the Rams games in the postseason. So the fact that they're able to bring in Jake McQuaid, longtime Ram, St. Louis Ram in the past, and what they've been able to do with Jake McQuaid and with Harrison Mevis coming in there, being lights out in the kicking game is something, again, a lot of people may brush past, but I'm thankful for as a Rams fan, not only for the fact that it could be big for down the stretch, but it reduces a lot of stress because I'm not out there now like stressing about an extra point being blocked or about it being missed. I'm sure you guys are in that same kind of spot as I am for that. So Harrison Mevis, great game. Glad he got his 2 first career actual field goals, not PATs today. And we saw the range that he had. And it was right down the middle, not even a question. So I think that this addition of Mevis and this switch out of McQuaid really could have saved the Rams this season. Because as good as they are, you're going to face good teams down the line and even in the playoffs to where if your kicking game is struggling, if you're missing, if you're having blocked kicks, all it takes is it being down to that last kick in a game to try to win it, like Matt Gay did against the Bucks back in 2021. And if you miss that or you have that blocked, that's your season. So I'm just proud of the Rams for being able to address this, to be able to troubleshoot and get it figured out in the right time. And now you can't really point to a unit for the Rams that is struggling like crazy. Everybody, like the casual take is to say that the kicking team and the special teams is the biggest weakness for the Rams. And I've even heard that over the last couple weeks. But you go back to last week against the Seahawks, and you had that crazy Ethan Evans punt down to like the inch-yard line in a clutch moment. And he's been great all year, has had so many punts inside the 20. And then you've had for the last few weeks, Harrison Mevis not miss a single kick. I should say a single extra point because today was the first day he had kick opportunities. But you didn't have him miss a single kick. And now I don't think you can legitimately say that the Rams have a big need. I really don't think that you can say that because they've addressed the kicker position. They've given us no reason to be concerned about it. They've just been absolutely nails since bringing this group in. And so, like, if you're an opposing fan or you're a fan inside the division, like the 49ers, Seahawks, I don't think you can really say that that's a weakness anymore. And I would challenge you to look for a weakness on this Rams team because I kind of agree with what Kevin Demoff said back in the offseason when he was getting interviewed. I think it was on Good Morning Football, and he said that this was the most talented, most complete team the Rams have ever had under Kevin Demoff. And a lot of people took that by surprise, and they were shocked by that, and they were like, hey, like you're discrediting 2018 Super Bowl team or 2021 Super Bowl team. And I think this is really trying to show evidence to his point he was making. This team is complete. I think a lot of the times, like what people would knock us for in the past, especially in that 2021 year, was the lack of depth. We always heard the lack of depth. Like if the Rams have one injury here or there, they're going to just struggle. And you could make an argument in some scenarios, in some position groups, maybe that they needed more depth there. I would look at safety, like back in 2021, that was definitely a position that needed a little bit more depth. But obviously the Rams in the Super Bowl, like they didn't have Odell Beckham. They didn't have Robert Woods. They lost a couple of their tight ends there, and they are just really struggling at a lot of different positions and dealing with some injuries there. It was Ben Skoranek and Cooper Kupp that were your top receivers, and Van Jefferson dealing with an injury. And so, like, you can question their depth all the way back then, and you could point to it and maybe say it's true, maybe it's not. I think certain position groups you can make an argument, but I also think the Rams need depth kind of argument was a little overblown at times. But I think now, even casual fans can look at this roster and say, like, where's a position that is really struggling or that's really weak, that needs a lot of depth? I don't really know if you can find one. The Rams feel extremely complete. And when they have injuries like they had with Rob Havenstein, with Quentin Lake, with Tyler Higbee, all of those position groups stepped up. You still saw the Rams running their 13 personnel even without Tyler Higbee because you have Davis Allen, Terrence Ferguson, and Colby Parkinson, who got a touchdown pass today. And we've seen this in the past too. Puka Nacua goes down. And in the Jaguars game, that really helped the Rams to diversify the offense. That's really the first game that they leaned into the 13 personnel. They're able to adapt. They're able to shift. Today, they don't have Quentin Lake. He gets injured, and Josh Wallace steps in there. And while I don't think he played close to a Quentin Lake, they were able to survive the storm without Lake, and they were able to play really good as a defense. And it's those kinds of things when you have an injury, who's going to be able to step up? The Rams have had a lot of players that are able to step up for them, and you're not feeling a big dramatic loss. And that just speaks to the depth that they have. So not only do they have the stars of like a Jared Verse, a Byron Young, a Braden Fisk, a Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, you could go on and on. You also have incredible depth for when players go down. The Rams don't miss a beat. They still score 34 points, and they hold the Bucks to one touchdown on the entire day. And so I just love that the Rams have depth. I love that they can find different ways to win. And this team is really beginning to steer away from what we knew them to be in the last couple of years when they've been kind of like rebuilding on the fly, I guess you could say. And what I mean by that is they're not winning those games that are really close, and maybe Rams fans want them to win by a lot of points or do better on offense or play more complete. It feels like the young guys are beginning to mature and get enough experience to be able to understand how to win games in the league and win dominantly. And they have the personnel everywhere. They have the coaching everywhere. We got to appreciate Chris Shula while we have him, because I think this might be the last year that the Rams have Chris Shula. To be honest, I think he's going to be head coach for the Dolphins or some other team. I don't think you can look at this team with how many dominant defensive performances they've had and some being in primetime like tonight and say that Chris Shula isn't at least going to be in a head coaching conversation. So we got to enjoy him as Rams fans. Just enjoy the season in general. His team, I just have to remind myself again how blessed I am to be able to be a fan of this team. Been a fan all my life because I was born in St. Louis. That's how I became a fan of the team and still following them now. So we've seen a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but under McVay, it's mainly been ups. And it's just been so much fun to have a competitive team every year. I was just thinking about this yesterday. It's crazy that us as Rams fans can go into a season and we'd be more surprised if the Rams missed the playoffs or lost the wild card round than we are for them to go out and win the Super Bowl or to make it super far. And I'm just so glad that those are the expectations we have. We're not the Jets. We're not the Browns. We're not the Saints. This is so fun to be a fan of this team and to be with them through the ups and downs of those St. Louis years and through Scott Linehan, Jeff Fisher, and some of those quarterbacks that we were dealing with. It just felt like a carousel at that position. And now when I look at the Rams organization, even just from an outsider perspective and zoom out, I see competitiveness. I see consistency. I don't see any drama like we see with the 49ers and like Brandon Ayuk and all the different contract situations they've had there. They are just such a well-run organization. And I think we just got to appreciate what it is to be a Rams fan, to be able to see this team and recognize like we are in the good, like golden age Rams years right now. We got to appreciate that because like it can go faster than you think. And I'm just thankful that we are all here being able to appreciate what an incredible season this has been. We still got a lot of games to go. We're 9-2 right now. So we got 6 games left. Our next game is going to be against the Panthers. And obviously we expect the Rams to play into the postseason. That's almost a lock at this point as long as health prevails here. So we got a lot of Rams football left. I just challenge you guys to really enjoy it. Just enjoy the coaching, enjoy the players that we have, enjoy what it is to be a Rams fan in this era. It's just so much fun. The fact that we can go from a Cooper Kupp and go from that transition to a Devontae Adams. We can go from an Aaron Donald to having the defensive front that we have that was coined last year, the fearsome 2020 foursome. I just feel like this Rams organization is so good at being ahead of the curve. While they have their mistakes, they're ahead of the curve. They're ready to replace guys before it's too late. And they're always on the new league trends under Sean McVay. And they have the right coaches in here. And I'm just, again, just so good. It's so fun to be a Rams fan. Muad'Dib says, imagine if you were a Dodgers and Galaxy fan too. Yeah, I mean, just to be an LA sports fan in general is absolutely insane. Like they don't call it the City of Champions for no reason. I can't imagine that. I would say football is easily by far my favorite sport. Like not even close to anything else. I would say like a close, or not even a close second, like second place sport for me, probably basketball, like probably, but I only really watch when it gets to playoff time. So like I'm not super locked into that. Baseball, I like to watch playoff baseball, but like football is where it's at. And so just glad that we're a fan of a team that is this good. We got 623366666 saying Rams house, what's up? What's up? I'm not gonna say that name all again, but your profile picture is a T. So what's up, man? Thanks for stopping in here. I appreciate it. We're like King Stafford's court. Yeah, Stafford just absolutely insane. And that's one of those things too. Do you guys think that this is Stafford's last season? Because I feel like I'm going back and forth on it. Like, how cool would it be for Matthew Stafford to ride off in the sunset, to have an MVP year like he's having, to play as well as he's playing, to go out and win the Super Bowl in a division rival stadium, to end on a high note with 2 Super Bowls, an MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer? Would you leave it there when you're playing that well? And you obviously won the Super Bowl in 2021, but had to go through that rough year in 2022 and had to build all the way up to this point in 2025. Hypothetically, they win the Super Bowl. Do you think Matthew Stafford walks off into the sunset and retires? Because me personally, selfishly, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do when Stafford retires. Like, we are so spoiled with Matthew Stafford, and there's a legitimate possibility he could retire by the end of this year. But also, who's to say that he doesn't just continue to play? Like, when you look at the situation around him, next year on offense, you're guaranteed to have your full starting offensive line. You're guaranteed to have Puka Nacua. Devontae Adams is very likely to come back. He's still on a 2-year deal. And you have Kyron Williams. You have a great coaching staff. You have a great young defense. They're going to make more additions. So if you're Stafford, how could you walk away from a situation like this? So I'm kind of going back and forth. I think if you truly wanted to, he could play for another 3 or 4 years. He just takes such good care of his body. Injuries are always the thing that people talk about and bring up, but I really do think that he has another 3 or 4 years in the tank if he wants to. And the biggest reason Stafford has continued to play, even after that Super Bowl, after he proved everybody wrong about what he couldn't do according to them, he still came back and continued to play, and he's still playing now. And he often gets the question, like, you've proven everything, like, why continue to play? And he always talks about, he obviously wants to have his kids remember him playing football, but even more than that, he wouldn't keep playing football if he didn't have that competitive drive and that drive to win and that competitive fire that we see on every Sunday. And so I think it's going to come down to, does he feel complete and full like Aaron Donald does if he goes out and wins the Super Bowl this year and gets that MVP? Does everything that we're expecting as Rams fans, him and the Rams to be able to do? Or does he look at this and say, let's try to run it back again? And does he still have that drive, that desire, or will he feel complete? Because whether he does or doesn't, I'm trying to be intentional about enjoying this season, and Matthew Stafford in particular, and just like really trying to focus on that going into games, just being like, man, this really could be his last year. Like, you never know when his last pass is going to be. So just try to enjoy him. And we'll see, obviously the retirement talk is far off in the future. We got a fun season to be able to finish up here, but it's something I definitely think about. And I try to stay intentional of like being thankful and like really appreciating Matthew Stafford. LA Lucas are good too. That's a good one. Muad'Dib says 7 more years of Stafford, and then we get Josh Allen. His wife convinces him to go to LA. I mean, sign me up. 7 more years of Stafford. Josh Allen at that point would probably be around the age of Matthew Stafford at that point. But I think the Rams are going to have a good plan for whenever Matthew Stafford is done. I think Stafford's going to either let him know, or like Aaron Donald when he retired, the Rams are going to have a feel for it and be ready for it and be able to. You can't really replace a guy like Matthew Stafford. Like, whoever comes in at quarterback after Stafford, I would greatly expect them to be worse than Stafford and there to be a drop-off. I think it's kind of a discredit to say that any rookie we bring in or even veteran that we bring in after Stafford is done will just be better inherently day one. Stafford is just so good, and we'll see what ends up happening. I think the Rams are going to have a plan, but I hope we don't have to put that plan into motion anytime soon. Hopefully we can have him for a couple more years at least. But hey, thank you guys so much for stopping in to this post-game stream. You guys are the best. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you just for coming in here to hear a Rams fan talk about his thoughts about this dominant win. excited to see where this team goes. Special shout out again to Ducendo Falco, I believe is his name, just from streams I've heard in the past. Just incredible, man. Thank you so much again for your donation. And thank you, even all the people who didn't donate and people who just came in just to watch me and to comment and interact. You guys are also the best as well. So I hope you guys have a good night. I know we can sleep well. It's going to make Monday feel a little bit better, just knowing that we're going into Monday on a victory Monday, a blowout win, and another win for the Rams, just to be logged in there. Number 1 seed in the NFC. Aaron Donald was celebrated. I can't complain. You guys have a great night, though. Horns up and God bless, guys. Hope you have